Good evening and welcome to In Focus. Tonight, Greenland. Not just an Arctic headline, no, now a real test of sovereignty, alliance rules and US strategy. Reports say Washington is weighing ways to increase its influence on the island, while voices inside Greenland debate whether the US can be engaged directly or only through Denmark, which remains responsible for defense and foreign affairs. In the program tonight, we unpack the US calculus, what Washington wants, what it can realistically get, and the risks of turning an Arctic security argument into a political rupture with allies. Then we shift to the European lens, the legal red lines, the NATO implications, and how Europe responds without escalating a crisis inside the alliance. I'm Mark Summers, and this is In Focus, where we cut through the noise and stay with what really shifts the story. Welcome to the program. Greenland's political parties say the island will decide its own future. This after renewed US pressure and reports that the Trump administration is weighing incentives to sway Greenlanders, while China rejects being used as justification in the debate. Reuters reports the leaders of all five parties in Greenland's parliament have issued a rare united statement rejecting US threats, and will bring forward a parliamentary meeting to agree a response. This comes after Reuters revealed the Trump administration has discussed options, including direct payments to Greenlanders and a compact of free association-style model, despite Denmark and Greenland repeatedly saying the territory is not for sale. China has also pushed back, with Beijing urging Washington to stop using the so-called China threat as a pretext for selfish gains, after Trump referenced China's ships in Greenland's waters. The immediate test is whether this stays political rhetoric or turns into formal proposals that deepen friction inside NATO and across the Arctic. And our first guest tonight is joining us from Cairo, Dr. Ahmed Sayed Ahmed, who is an international relations and US affairs expert at Al Ahram. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, what is driving Washington's renewed push on Greenland right now?
After greetings, in fact, U.S. importance, especially Trump of Greenland, is returning back to what Trump says the strategic size of the national security of America, and that Greenland or the island, the big island in the world, that for 2 million kilometers square and with a low population that doesn't exceed 60,000 is linked to the America geographically, but it doesn't come back to Denmark. But there is a North Pole. There are some steps from the Russian and China's movement. America wants to take over this island and for some strategic reasons, but I think the main reason is an economic reason, because Trump is an economic man searching for money all the time and say that he brings America the money, and Venezuela was an economic reason of what happened of the Venezuela. And for taking over all the petroleum, there are $4 billion go to America because they took petroleum from Venezuela. So he wants to take over many petroleum for Greenland because it's rich of the rare elements that be used in technological stuff. There are some economic reasons behind the American seekers to take over the island.
And also, as well as all that, I mean, reports suggest they have these ideas like direct payments to Greenlanders. Is that a serious policy?
I think America is using now more than one way for the annexation of this island, and one of these factors is for the Greenland population that, as I said before, there are just only 60,000 people, for an election in the island to be linked to America and provide the money for them. There is an American base in Greenland, and for the American envoy visited Greenland in an attempt to influence the population to be under American taking over and control, but they still addressing some challenges because some of the population made revolutions and want to be independent and not under the American control and wanted to be under Denmark control. Trump is now using the peaceful ways, as he said yesterday, for the including the island with an easy stuff, and if it doesn't happen, he will use the force to take over, despite all the international and the European rejection and Denmark rejection and the threatening of American base on the island that will lead the division. All of these, Trump goes to the diplomatic fields and ways, or an agreement to be under American control. He will leave the military choice as the last option because he thinks and I think he will not withdraw or he will take and insist to take over the Greenland.
Well, of course, Denmark is a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark, as you are mentioning there. Greenland's foreign minister says trying to have talks with Greenland, the United States trying to have talks with Greenland and bypassing Denmark is illegal. Do you think the US is just going to do it anyway?
I think Trump generally, as Venezuelan experience and other experiences, Trump doesn't abide by the international law or the official diplomacy or from the relations with the countries. He wants to achieve the target, and his target was the annexation and take over the Greenland as a strategic island and have a suitable and special position and have a lot of rich elements. He wants to make some negotiations, direct negotiations with the Greenland population and to consider it to be under control. But there are many European stances, and Denmark's stance is still refusing. And Europeans said today that they are all one hand against Trump, and they still refusing the Trump plan and his sovereignty and his plans, and all of the stuff that the international law and abiding by the UN Charter and the international law. I think Trump's nature and using the force is just feeling that he's the strongest president in the world and neglecting all the diplomatic states and diplomatic solutions or legal solutions. However, for Trump, it's just a matter of time. He's trying to use the peaceful ways for taking the control of the Greenland.
Now, you mentioned before, Dr. Ahmed, the economic benefits for the United States, like rare earth minerals. The US is framing this as a security necessity. What is it exactly that the United States wants to get out of Greenland in terms of defense? I'm not sure you got the question there. Are you still with us, Dr. Ahmed? Hopefully, Dr. Ahmed is still with us. Talking about defense, what is it the United States wants to get out of Greenland in terms of defense? Well, unfortunately, we just lost Dr. Ahmed Sayed Ahmed there, but thank you very much for joining us, international relations and U.S. affairs expert at Al-Ahram. But we are going to have our next guest with us in just a moment. European leaders are closing ranks behind Denmark and Greenland, warning U.S. pressure over Greenland risks damaging NATO unity at the moment of heightened security threats. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk says he is deeply worried that tensions over Greenland could strain NATO and weaken the alliance at a time Europe faces rising threats from Russia. The EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, says Europe has discussed what a response would look like if US threats are real, calling the messages extremely concerning. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, has ruled out a US military move, warning it would have serious consequences for NATO, while urging a stronger NATO role in the Arctic to address security concerns without undermining sovereignty. For Europe, the balancing act is clear. Reinforce Arctic security through alliance channels while drawing a hard line on sovereignty and international law. And now we are joined from Washington by Dan Renee, who is a communications counselor and a researcher. Welcome back to Q News, Dan. Good to have you on the program. Before we get to the ins and outs of the matter, is the whole idea of the United States taking over Greenland completely mad?
Well, again, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you today. And no, it's not out of the question here, but just like with so many things that President Trump does, he creates a new conversation about things. And so now we're talking about Greenland and what might its future look like for the United States. And it's kind of Trump's way of doing things. And so, Greenland does have a strategic position in the world, and it's something that could be beneficial to the United States. But with previous agreements and current agreements that are in place, the United States can still have military activities. There's already an early warning missile defense system that is there, and we can use Greenland on existing agreements. But what I think that President Trump is trying to do here is trying to figure out a way that we can use Greenland's geographic position to counter some of the aggression that we're seeing these days from both Russia and from China.
And if the U.S. pressure is exercised, maybe with some incentives, we hear talk of giving the Greenlanders some cash or a little bit of coercion as well. Is this will this be a nightmare when it comes to international law?
I think that there is, it's a lot of talk and a lot of hand-wringing about what the possibilities may be. But keep in mind, this isn't the first time that this has happened. Harry Truman actually tried to buy Greenland for $100 million in gold when he was president. So this is not the first time the United States has made an overture about using Greenland's geographic position. So I do think that there is going to be some continued kind of consternation around what is going to happen and what may end up being the case. But I think that the conversation that we're having now is one where the United States is showing that they care about Russia and China's continued aggression and threats, and they see how Greenland can be a strategic advantage in this. And so whether it's through purchase or some other agreement that comes into place, there is a possibility of the United States expanding its footprint onto Greenland. But at the same time, again, I think that it's not going to be an all or nothing style pursuit.
Yeah, of course, it's not unprecedented in the way, of course, the United States bought Alaska as well. Was 100 years ago or more than 100 years ago.
Or the Louisiana Purchase when Thomas Jefferson was president. I mean, there's lots of ways that territories can change and expand and what have you. And and Denmark has even said that this isn't necessarily their decision, that it's the people of Greenland who have to make this decision as well. And, there's 57,000 people there. It's hardly a desirable place to necessarily live. Otherwise, the population would be much larger than that. But again, I think that what we're seeing here is again a continued narrative about the strategic significance of Greenland, and it's going to allow the United States to continue its pursuits there, whether that's building up the current positions that are already there, or again finding a way to expand our footprint on. I think it's I could be wrong. I think it's the world's largest island. I could be wrong there, but have to look at a map. But it is pretty big.
And speaking of what the Greenlanders themselves want, there was a poll done not so long ago, and they were asked if they would like independence from Denmark. An overwhelming majority said yes, they would like independence from Denmark. And then they were asked if they would like to be taken over by the United States, which even more people said, no, 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 we don't want that either. What we want as Greenlanders is to be completely independent. That's never going to happen, is it?
Well, I think that under the existing agreements and treaties that are in place, I think that we're going to continue to see the United States using those agreements to expand that footprint. And I'm all for the people that live there and operate there to have a voice in their own destiny. That said, I don't think that there's been a whole lot of overtures from the United States at this point to really convince the people of Greenland what a United States ownership or a United States cooperation would look like. And so I think that there would be lots of benefits there to the people that live in Greenland if it was communicated appropriately. And at this point, the language that's been used has been part of a takeover. People have said, whether it's military, things like that, which again, I think kind of push people in a direction where they otherwise wouldn't want to go. And I would think that people would be resistant to that. But if we were able to explain the benefits that could come from cooperation with the United States and the strategic position that Greenland offers, it could be a win for everyone.
And how should Europe respond to this without turning it into an absolute alliance crisis, especially when it comes to NATO? This is a nightmare for Europe, isn't it? You've got the most powerful country on earth with a man who wants to do quite what he wants, and nobody can stop him, can they? Because America is the world's only superpower.
So call me crazy, but I think that the tensions around Greenland can present an opportunity for a renewed and even stronger transatlantic cooperation, not a conflict. Again, we're not hearing a lot about that right now, but the rhetoric around here has focused on the disagreement and the strong words that are coming around. But I think that if we really look deeply here, that there is an underlying interest among NATO members, especially when it comes to security in the Arctic. I think that our positions here are actually aligned when it comes to Europe and North America, both wanting to deter Russian and China influence in the North. So again, I think that if we look deeply about this and we look at it in a calm and measured way, that again, preventing this aggression and these advances from both Russia and China not only serve the United States' interests well, it serves NATO's interests well, and therefore it serves Europe's interests well too. Again, I know that's abridged, and a lot of people might say that that's a bit too much, but I do see this as being something that could be, if communicated the right way and shown the right way, that this could be an opportunity for a strengthened U.S.-Europe cooperation.
Well, I like your optimism, your new 2026 resolution. Was it, Dan?
I try to be the happy guy and look at things half full.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned security there, and the U.S. is trying to frame Greenland as a security necessity. But isn't there's that deal from the 1950s with Denmark that the U.S. can use Greenland as it needs and have as many bases as it wants? So what does it not have at the moment that it needs to have going forward?
that's an excellent question, and frankly, I don't really know the answer to that either, unless it's really just codifying some of these long-standing agreements and treaties. I mean, we are looking at a 1950s era agreement that allows that to happen, and the United States is still operating under that same agreement. But however, what we're seeing is continued again Russian desires and advancement, again threats from China as well, and so perhaps it's just a renewal of those agreements. But the way I see it, the United States can still operate in that area, expand the bases, expand the defense systems that exist already, without having to go through this whole purchase or military takeover conversation. But at the same time, again, this is a conversation that is likely one that can be beneficial, whether it's, again, to expand and have more cooperation, or to show Russia and China this deterrence and this unified vision to kind of make sure that they're going to stay in check and try to not to continue to advance their aggression worldwide.
Now, Donald Trump was talking about Greenland even in the run-up to his election last year, or the year before now. What is it about Greenland? Who do you think has been talking in Donald Trump's ear that's got him so excited and transfixed on Greenland?
Well, again, the defensive position that Greenland offers cannot be denied. It's obviously something that has been in the United States, eyesight, and something that has been desirable for a very long time. And when it comes to wanting to put America first, which is Donald Trump's legacy that he will leave, and his method of governing at this point, having that strengthened presence there in Greenland, whether it's through the existing treaties and agreements that exist from the 1950s, or a renewed ownership or new way of governance there. It establishes, I guess, a bit more of a permanent solution, and something that I think that he would desire to essentially leave his mark on, and something that, instead of being something that could be changed with legislation or a stroke of a pen, this could be something that could be a lasting agreement, and something that could be something that would be codified in either ownership or occupation that is welcome.
Yeah, there's something that's been coming up over the past few weeks and before since the national security strategy, the Monroe Doctrine. This is a doctrine from the 19th century from President Monroe, who said anything that's happening in America's backyard is America's business and can get involved with that. Trump is now calling it the Donroe doctrine now, and it's been an interesting few weeks, since not even a few weeks since the start of 2026. What do you make of the new Donroe doctrine when it comes to, obviously, Venezuela, and now what it seems to be a serious thought and serious bid for taking over Greenland?
So, when it comes to the new way of looking at things, I mean, and when it comes to Venezuela, that is certainly something that is in America's neighborhood. And when you have, Iranian energy suppliers, when you have Cuban security, when you have Russian influence and China influence all on our shores, and you have the increased amounts of drugs flowing into the United States, killing tens of thousands of Americans, and not to mention the reason that Maduro was brought to justice being a long-standing criminal indictment. These are all very important factors that go into that America First strategy. So I prefer America First over Donroe or what have you. But again, it is a way of looking at things, and in a justification that few can actually argue with. And when it comes to Greenland, it's really the same thing. It becomes part of this ongoing agreement to keep America safe from the pending aggression that could be coming from America's adversaries. And let's make no mistake about it. Russia and China and Iran and Cuba were acting overtime in Venezuela, and they're trying to act overtime, in the north as well, at the Arctic. So there is a reason to want to keep America protected in our own neighborhood, and that's important.
Well, China's pushed back on that, haven't they? They've said stop using this so-called China threat as a pretext for these selfish gains, as an excuse for Venezuela and for Greenland.
I mean, what else do you expect them to say? That they're not going to do anything, that they're not trying to become the leader of the world, and they don't want to see the United States succeed? Of course they're going to say that. And of course that their actions will show something completely opposite. Again, the Chinese and the Russians and other adversaries throughout the world are not out there rooting for the United States' safety and prosperity. In fact, they're rooting against it. And that's plain as day. It is shown through their actions. I wouldn't expect them to say anything else other than that, because anything that advances America's prosperity and America's defenses makes their job of domination even that much more difficult, as which we need to stand by.
It's been interesting to see the reframing of America First over the past few weeks. It's been done from the podium in the White House, and you were saying as much there. But wasn't what America First meant to at least the MAGA base was staying out of being the world's policeman, staying out of getting involved in foreign wars or invading countries? Wasn't that what America First was about? Now this reframing that America First is America First, but we'll do that wherever we need to do it in the world. That's a very different America First from what Trump's voters were voting for, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that he's got a long way to go to continue to communicate to that very same base why what he's doing is indeed America First. And he has lost many allies. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look at some of these other, conservative individuals in Congress and at think tanks throughout the country and others. There is a genuine bewilderment about how this has happened, because Trump has to continue to make the case, and I think that he will. That these are going to be beneficial for the American people and keeping America safe and keeping America free. But at the same time, the conversation about taking out nuclear weapons in Iran and taking out drug lords in Venezuela and taking over Greenland certainly is different conversation from the benefits of the big beautiful bill. And so tying all that together is a communications challenge that even the best White House is going to have some issues with. Again, they've got their work cut out for them.
So, Dan, week one in 2026, removal of Maduro and the oil conversations with Venezuela. Then week two, talk of Greenland. Where are we going in week three?
I think that we're going to continue to see more advancements towards finding pathways towards peace in the Middle East. I think that there is still a lot of issues when it comes to Hamas and Hezbollah and some of those other issues out there.
And talk of Iran as well. There's still quite heavy talk of Iran from the White House.
Absolutely, and they're the ones that have been funding that. But Iran's currency is fallen to dangerous levels. The protests in the streets, the violence that's happening there. I think that we're going to see a lot more there when it comes to what events are going to be unfolding on the world stage. So and at the same time, at home, we've got things happening in Minneapolis. We've got things happening in Washington D.C. I mean, it's a busy time, and I'm glad I'm not a reporter right now, because I wouldn't be able to keep up with it all.
Very true. Dan Renee, communications counselor and researcher, thank you very much for joining us from Washington. It's great to talk to you again. Thank you very much indeed. Tonight's Greenland story is ultimately about precedent. If pressure and incentives can be used to reshape sovereignty inside an alliance, it changes the rules far beyond the Arctic. For Washington, the question is whether strategic gains justify the political cost. For Europe, it is how to defend legal principle and unity at the same time. And for Greenland, it's about self-determination without becoming the arena of someone else's rivalry. I'm Mark Summers. Thanks very much for watching tonight, watching In Focus. Good night.